Hello, I'm going to read you a little story called Uncle Jonathan's Private Elf. There we go, looks like we're going to the circus. They were all rather nervous when they first saw their Uncle Jonathan from the Transvaal. He was so big, enormous really, and his beard and moustache were so unlike what they were accustomed to that Nina, who was rather small, hid behind Isabel and peeked round when she thought Uncle Jonathan wasn't looking. "Now come and be introduced, children," said Mother. "I wonder where Nina has got to." "Oh, there you are, darling." Nina came forward very shyly, hanging her head, but when she looked up, Uncle Jonathan was watching her with such kind, merry eyes that she stopped feeling nervous at once. "This is Nina, the smallest," said Mother. "Then here is Dan, who has just gone to school, and the twins, Molly and Ted, and this is Rollo, and Isabel is the eldest." "Hello," said Uncle Jonathan to each of them, and they all replied, "Hello, Uncle." "Now, let me see if I get the names right," said their uncle. "First Nina, then Dan, then Molly, and is it Ted? Then you're Rollo, and Isabel has the beautiful long pigtails." "Right, first time," said Rollo, laughing. "6 of us too. You're pretty clever to get us all straight off." "6, are there?" said Uncle Jonathan. "I didn't make it so many when I counted. I think you're wrong, you know." "Yes, there are 6 of us," clamoured the children. "Count and see." "Well, keep very, very quiet while I count, because I need to get behind my whiskers and concentrate. Ready? Well, Nina is 1, that's right. Dan makes 2, that's right. The twins make 3, that's right. Don't interrupt. I'm getting to a difficult bit. Then Rollo makes 4, and Isabel, with her long yellow pigtails, Isabel makes 5. 5, you see. I told you there weren't as many as 6. "But you counted wrong," the children laughed. "You said the twins make 3, but there are 2 of them." "I'll count again," said Uncle Jonathan solemnly. "Nina is 1, that's right. Dan 2, that's right. The twins 3. "No, there are 2 twins, 2 twins," clamoured the children, giggling. "The twins 2, said Uncle Jonathan. "Rollo 3, and Isabel 4. You see, this time there are only 4 of you. Was somebody hiding?" By this time everybody was laughing so hard that Mother began to laugh too. "Jonathan," she said, "you've still got your imp of mischief, I see." "What's an imp of mischief?" asked the children, who had never heard of such a thing. "Ah, that's just my private elf," replied Uncle Jonathan. "Let us see it, please let us see it," they begged, but Uncle Jonathan's eyes twinkled at them and he shook his head. "I can't produce my elf to order," he said. "You may just catch a glimpse of him at an odd moment, but he comes and goes as he pleases." There's Uncle Jonathan with all 6 children. "Where does he live?" asked little Nina, who was now on her Uncle Jonathan's knees. "Will he have his bread and milk with us tonight and sleep in our spare bedroom?" "He doesn't go in much for bread and milk," said Uncle Jonathan, "but he'll certainly sleep in your spare bedroom." They could hardly go to bed that night. They had grown so fond of their new uncle, whiskers and all, and the very first thing that Dan did when he wakened, he was always the first to wake, was to hurry through to the spare bedroom to see the elf. But the only person there was Uncle Jonathan. Dan hurried back to wake the others. "The elf isn't there," he told them. "He must have escaped through the night. There's only Uncle in the spare bedroom." "But he said the elf would sleep in the spare bedroom," wailed Nina, who wanted very much to see Uncle Jonathan's private elf. "Shh," whispered Isabel, jumping up. "I expect Dan just didn't see him. I'm going to look myself." She pattered into the spare bedroom, and all the others followed in their bare feet, and stood around the bed in which Uncle Jonathan lay, his hair all ruffled and his beard and whiskers looking very bristly against the smooth white sheet. "Do you see the elf?" whispered Dan. "No," Isabel whispered back. "Do you see him, Rollo?" "No, I don't see him," said Rollo. Molly and Ted, the twins, looked at each other and then at Isabel. "We think," said Ted, "he may be hiding under the bedclothes, or even under Uncle Jonathan's whiskers." "We could just lift up the ends of his whiskers," said Molly, very gently, "and take a peek." "But that would waken Uncle," Rollo objected. "Not if we're very careful," Isabel decided. "I'll do it, and you can all keep a lookout for the elf." They hung round her as she leant over Uncle Jonathan's sleeping head. They watched her fingers very gently, very slowly lift the curly brown beard, then the ends of his moustaches. No elf appeared. Then Isabel began to lift back the sheet just a little way to see if the elf was snuggled under the bedclothes, and as she did this, one of her pigtails fell across Uncle Jonathan's face, and his blue eyes opened and stared at them all. What, where, who? He stammered, then rubbed his eyes and was wide awake. Ha! Good morning, you 6, he said. Or are there 7 of you this morning? No, there are always 6 of us, said Rollo. I'm sorry my pigtail awakened you, Isabel apologised. We only wanted to see your elf. And did you see him? Asked Uncle Jonathan, glancing round. Where are you, old chap? Hey, don't be shy of my nephew and nieces. Come along, show yourself. The children looked around, expecting the elf to pop out from behind the mirror or out of a drawer. Won't he come? I want to see your elf, said Nina. We want to see him too, said the twins, Ted and Molly. We all want to see him, said Rollo. I'll bet it was your pigtail that scared him, Isabel, falling over Uncle's face like that. I couldn't help it, said Isabel. No, of course she couldn't. Let's see those pigtails of yours, Isabel. Uncle sat up and took a pigtail in each hand. So you wear them all the time, even to sleep in, do you? Won't they come off at all? He tugged gently at the pigtails and everyone laughed at him. They grow on, said Isabel. At least my hair grows on and we plait it into pigtails to keep it out of the way. I might do that with my beard, said Uncle Jonathan. I must learn how to do it. Wouldn't I look pretty with 2 nice pigtails? Then Mother called them to come and get dressed, and they all ran off laughing. There was great fun during the week that Uncle Jonathan was with them. They had games and parties, and everyone teased Uncle Jonathan because he simply couldn't count and was always adding them up wrong. Now keep very quiet while I count, he would say. It's very hard work doing sums. But sometimes he counted the twins as 1. And sometimes he counted in Isabel's pigtails, and he could never get the right number. The one thing they longed to see was Uncle Jonathan's private elf. They examined every ornament in the spare bedroom, thinking that he might be hiding in a vase. And they broke the Dresden candlestick, and Mother was cross. Your uncle's elf is going too far, she told them. Now stop looking for it. Either you see it or you don't. I've seen Jonathan's imp of mischief far too often, and without looking for it, it just appears. This puzzled them, for they were beginning to think there was no such thing, and that it was all a game of pretence. But if Mother saw it, it must be real. Now this afternoon, said Uncle, we're all going to the circus. Every one of us. I don't want any scrimshankers. It's compulsory. I've brought as many tickets as we need, and I've taken an extra seat for Isabel's pigtails. And that looks like Nina looking in the vase for the imp. What's scrimshankers? Asked Nina. What's compulsory? It means you can't stay at home even if you want to, Ted told her. We all want to come, they exclaimed, jumping with delight at the idea of the circus. We don't need an extra seat for Isabel's pigtails. But we can keep it for your private elf, Uncle Jonathan. Oh, you're more likely to see him among the animals, he told them. In fact, he actually looks rather like a monkey. When it came to the bit, Uncle had just the right number of tickets after all. They were in the very front row, and one of the clowns actually gave Nina a paper parasol with red, white and blue streamers. Then he made a low bow, and when Nina rose and made one of her pretty curtsies, he bowed again, so low this time that he turned a somersault, and all the audience laughed and clapped their hands. I say, whispered Isabel, looking at the programme, I think the monkeys are coming on. Is it monkeys next, Uncle Jonathan? Quite right, said their uncle. Now keep a lookout for my private elf. He's sure to be among them. He always loves monkey tricks. The man who came on with the monkeys had a terrible time with them. They were so naughty. They thought it was the greatest fun on earth to whisk off his top hat and send it flying amongst them. And one of them managed to jump on it and squashed it flat. Then he sat it on its rim and rode it rather like a bicycle. They took his handkerchief out of his pocket and it grew into a tent, and they pretended it was a little house for them to live in. When the man got down on his knees to crawl inside, they all hopped out and sat on his back and played horseback riding with him, jumping around and making funny faces and throwing balls and hoops and streamers around so fast that you could never count just how many monkeys there were. Then there were Japanese acrobats who seemed every bit as nimble as the monkeys had been, and all 5 of them climbed on top of the other and rode around the ring on a funny little bicycle, while the top one juggled with coloured balls all the time. a picture of them all riding around on the bicycle on top of each other's shoulders. Then there were the most wonderful trapeze artists and piebald ponies, and 2 seals that played with a striped ball, catching it on the point of their noses and tossing it to each other. "What did you like best?" Mother asked when they came home. "I liked the cowboys," said Rollo immediately. "You never saw anything like the way they whirled their lassos and caught the Indians." There they are. "Oh, I loved the piebald ponies," Isabel said. "They were the sweetest things, Mother. I did want to stroke their noses and give them a slice of bread like Danny, the milkman's horse." "We liked the seals best," said Ted, and Molly agreed. "Yes, the seals were the cleverest animals of all." "Except the monkeys," exclaimed Rollo. Then they all remembered the naughty monkeys and began to laugh and tell Mother of all the tricks they had played on the man who owned them. "And what did you like best, darling?" Mother asked, taking Nina on her lap. Nina answered, "I liked the funny man with the red nose because he gave me this parasol with the paper streamers." Next morning Uncle said, "Well, it has been a treat to be with you all. I wish I didn't have to say goodbye." "Don't go. Just stay with us forever," the children pleaded. But he told them sadly that he had to go. "And we haven't seen your private elf after all," said Isabel mournfully. "Do stay just till we've seen him," begged Rollo. "Yes, do," cried the twins. "Can't," said the uncle. "Must go. Now let me count you for the last time. Nina makes 1, Dan makes 2, the twins make 3, Rollo makes 4, and Isabel makes 5. And there's somebody in a box in the kitchen who makes 6. So that's all right. Goodbye, goodbye." When they had waved him off, they all rushed to the kitchen to see what on earth he had meant when he spoke of somebody in a box. Yes, there was a box there, and through its slats they could see beady eyes watching them. Could it be? "It's a monkey," shouted Rollo as he and Dan opened the lid and let the little brown monkey hop out onto their shoulders. "It's Uncle Jonathan's private elf." "The label says something," cried Isabel. "It says, 'My name is Jippo, and I am not a hippo.' Oh, he is a darling." And they all laughed, even Jippo. And they probably took Jippo back to the circus or maybe to the zoo. But there's a picture of him. He's not really Uncle Jonathan's private elf, is he? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that one, and we can do another story another time. Goodbye for now.